Mic check 1 2. Check 1 2. Microphone check 2. Check mic 1 2. We're good on my end.
Yeah, I mean, you get them to, yeah, if they want to speak, you mean?
wanna
Yeah,
speak.
yeah, and I've already made the council members co-hosts, so we're good there.
Great. Let me know when we're live.
We're all set.
Fantastic. This is a meeting of the Public Works and Facilities Committee for June 3rd, 2025. This is I will restate that now that I'm on mic. This is the Public Works and Facilities Committee for June 3rd, 2025. This meeting will take place at 6 p.m. in City Hall. I think I will go ahead and just start by having you call roll call.
Great. President Bears,
Present.
Councilor Lazaro,
Present.
Councilor Lemming. I don't see Councilor Lemming. Councilor Scarpelli, Chair Callahan.
Present. And today we are covering paper 24-034 from President Zach Bears. It is a report request from the facilities manager. Be it resolved by the Medford City Council that the Public Works and Facilities Committee request a report from the facilities manager containing the following information. 1, a complete inventory of city-owned properties and city-managed properties. 2, cost to restore each property on the above inventory to a state of good repair. 3, cost to maintain each property in a state of good repair once restored. Be it further resolved that the Public Works and Facilities Committee invite the facilities manager to present and discuss the above report once completed. And we very much appreciate our facilities manager, Mr. Riggi, being here. Mr. Riggi, please take the floor. Let's turn you on. This thing is not, there we go.
It's on.
It's on.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here tonight.
Thanks for coming.
You're welcome. I can say that the facilities, since I've started this position, have gotten much better. Proud of the work that we've been able to do for the city and continue to do for the city. And I'm looking forward to compiling this report that's requested by the City Council. I think it's important to have a document that shows not only every building, but what the future of those buildings are in terms of what work may be needed in the buildings, and then what work to maintain the buildings and keep them going to what I call the best condition that we can leave a building in. I foresee, though, I think to do the forecasting, I would probably have to hire a consultant to come in and inventory building systems and conditions of the building so we can try to get a real cost of what it would be to bring our buildings back to the condition that they were when they were built.
Can you give a timeline and a cost estimate for what it would take to provide the, and you got a copy of,
I
This
have a
looks great.
copy of that, actually. I started working on it in the background already. A timeline, I'd like to think 6 months. Cost, it would be hard to speak on because I'd have to reach out to one of our house doctors so they can compile a team to come together. I know, just to give you a ballpark, to do some work for the bathrooms renovation, that was probably about $50,000 to pull together for the team just for the bathrooms here at City Hall. So to do a more extensive one, I don't want to really put a cost estimate. I could always come back to you with a cost estimate for that, but I don't want to, pin myself down on something or, I really need to know an exact cost before I can say that.
for sure, but you're talking about a cost estimate for the cost estimate, right? So
A cost
just-
estimate to come up with, yes, what systems we would need, and then they would be able to provide cost estimates for what systems need to be replaced, and give us a cost estimate on replacing those, yes.
Yep. Do you have a sense for, is a better process that you provide us with an estimate of how much it will cost you to do this report? Is that something that you?
Basically, most of the report is my time.
Mhm.
Only item 2 would be an outside consultant. So, yeah, I can provide you a cost estimate for that. And then, get the funding for that and start and get underway with that.
Great. I'm going to turn to my fellow counselors and see if folks have questions. Oh, sorry. Your mic, it doesn't say your name on here. Oh, sorry. You're the, yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Ricky, thank you for being here today. That was my question. The catch 22 is, how much are we going to spend to see how much we have to spend? And I think, obviously we need that to get done, but I think it'll be interesting to see how much before we move forward to do that. I think that we all know that a lot of our buildings are in tough shape and they need some work. So it'll be interesting to see what that cost analysis would look like. If you're saying that it costs that much money just to look at bathrooms, and we're looking at fire stations, City Hall, I'm assuming not the schools, but I know we're already in the process right now with the Hegner Center, that hopefully will be part of that process, and then many other buildings. So I know that's a daunting task. That's for one person to try to do that. I think that just to give people an understanding, in neighboring community, their team that we have here, facilities team over at in Somerville, they have, I believe, 2 city facility managers plus assistant managers and supervisors, and then a team that work under them, which are mechanical teams, which are electricians, painters, plumbers, and carpenters. They even have a locksmith. So this is something that, obviously this has been an historical weakness in Medford, that we didn't have a team together, and I know this is a great start, but it'll be, for one council, be interesting to see what that analysis looks like, to weigh it to, whether we spend it actually doing it, or we spend it actually looking to see how much it should take to get done. So, thank you.
Do I have questions from other counselors? Can you let Zach in? President Barris?
Thank you, Chair Callahan. Thank you, Director Riggi. I was wondering, I think something that would be useful as part of this is, a spreadsheet that we can make available on the city website, just listing, address, name, assessed value, and then any other kind of pertinent data for all of our city-owned buildings and as well as our city-owned properties in general. I think just having that inventory piece is really helpful. I'm sure you have a version of that that you use in your day-to-day already. But I think that's a key first step. And, being able to put in your assessment on the condition of those properties and buildings, I think is really valuable. And then we can move to this kind of bigger question, what is it going to take to restore or renovate or maintain or replace buildings given their condition and their life cycle. And I wonder, I think, going to the house doctors is certainly one option. And if they're able to do, I'm sure the bathroom project was relatively detailed work because, we're planning to actually specifically install and replace bathrooms in the building. I'm wondering if, a slightly more bird's eye view might be more affordable than that detailed work. But also I think it might be worth considering if we're seeing, a very high estimate from the house doctors or something else, maybe going out to bid on something like this, or also maybe doing something similar to what DPW has done with the roads and sidewalk assessment and the water and sewer assessment, where we had that done, and presented to us to inform the long-term financial plan of those capital assets. So just some thoughts. And I'm also just wondering if you could talk a little bit more about, where you started when you came in versus what resources and materials you've been able to develop up to this point. And then maybe as well, just talk a little bit more about what you would be looking for in an assessment like what we're talking about. So I know those are pretty general questions, but I just think going through that in a little bit more detail would be helpful for everybody involved to hear. So thank you in advance for humoring me on that.
Sure, no problem. First of all, I actually have a spreadsheet with every city-owned building on it, and that's what I'm using with square footage and assessed values. So that's actually something probably I can help adapt to get up on the city website.
Can I interrupt you for one
Sure.
second? Could you at least provide some version of that just to the city councilors? That would be very
Yeah,
helpful.
I can provide what I have
Thank you.
and send it over. I think what I first started was starting going to every building and get my own assessment of the building. And I actually did that before I even talked to people that worked in the buildings. I wanted to get my own take on what conditions the buildings looked like before I could get any jaded responses or be swayed in a certain way. So I knew what buildings looked like before I started working with people and actually started diving in. What I found was that the city buildings were overall not taken care of to what I would call my standard. And I have very high standards. And my feeling is that a building has to be functional for those not only coming into the building, but the people that use it every day for work. And if they don't meet that requirement, something's wrong with the building. Case in point, the fire stations. When I got here and doing a tour with the counselors and going really through the detail and listening to the firefighters and getting more information about what they were living with. And I think we've corrected a lot of those issues. We started with windows. We, fixed the bathroom that had a major hole in it, an engine for it, which should have never happened. And getting those kinds of things done, it's something that I look at every building and seeing the work here at City Hall. But even the police and DPW and library, they were brand new buildings that didn't have any kind of preventive maintenance programs. So to get preventive maintenance programs for the HVAC systems, the sprinklers weren't even being inspected in those buildings. To get those inspected, to ensure that the emergency generators are not only tested, but they're load tested once a year. So we know that if there's a blackout, the generator will come on and carry the load that they're designed for. So it's those kind of issues that I've encountered that I feel that we've corrected and we still have more to do. We have 3 different house doctors, so I wouldn't reach out to just one. I would reach out to all 3 to get pricing to do this. And yeah, it would probably be more of an overall look of, okay, look at our HVAC system, look at the lighting systems, look at the flooring, windows, tell me what you think needs to be addressed, when it needs to be addressed, and let's put some cost to that. So it doesn't have to be the detail as we did at the bathrooms, but it would involve 18 buildings, so it would be an extensive list.
Thank you, Director Riggi. And one other question I had is just as relates to not just the buildings, but the non-building properties, parks, city-owned lots that are unused. Do you have any sort of engagement around that?
I do if somebody draws me into it. Technically, I don't. But so I try to not involve myself in that. But if somebody from the DPW comes and asks for help, actually, I was asked about the new playground at the McGlynn, if I could help getting a gutter and a downspout put on a structure there. So if I'm brought into the process, I'll gladly help any city department.
Got it. Yeah, I think it might be worth us also maybe engaging some of our DPW folks and maybe even planning office folks, just to make sure that those capital assets are included too. I mean, it really, I think that I'm not just saying you, but for the council to engage those folks. Now that we have the road and sidewalk assessment, we have water and sewer, and we have you on board with our buildings, I think we just need to make sure that that 4th piece of what we own doesn't get left out in the long run. Our parks and the non-building structures on them, as well as just a full catalog of city-owned lots around the city that maybe aren't even being used for really anything right now, or can't be used for anything in the long run.
Thank you, Councilor Bears. Any other questions from councilors? Before we move on to public comment, I just want to see what you think about a little bit of a timeline. Do you think that if you can get us that database, just the spreadsheet, in a couple of weeks, is that reasonable?
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. And then do you think you could get us an estimate by a month or 2 from now? Like an estimate of how much it will cost to get the
Yes.
cost estimate?
I should be able to do that.
That would be beautiful. Great. If you can get those things in the next, month or so, that'd be really helpful. And then I think we can maybe what do councilors think about us revisiting based upon that estimate and making a decision as to whether we want to request that full estimate of the cost to restore each property be done? Does it seem reasonable that we revisit that in this committee?
Makes sense to me.
I'm good? Great. Okay, so that'll be our plan. And so once you get us the estimate for the estimate, we can let you know whether, what we think about moving forward with that. Wonderful. Great. I will open it up for public comment. So if there's anyone, I do not see anyone in the chamber. If there's anyone on Zoom who wants to make any commentary on this topic. Ken Kraus, we are asking you to unmute now. Great, go ahead. You have the floor.
Thank you.
3 minutes.
Hi, Ken Kraus, 50 Mystic Street, Medford. I'm also on the board of the Friends of Chevalier Auditorium and Jean Mac Gym, and I represent the Friends on the Capital Improvements Committee of the Chevalier Commission. thanks to Counselor Bears for initiating this and for the committee for taking this up tonight. I agree that this is importantly needed for the city facilities. The Friends have been an advocate for the hiring of a facilities director for many, many years. And we were delighted when Paul Riggi was hired for this position. As you saw tonight, he is extremely capable, and his addition to the city administration has been fantastic for Chevalier in particular, but for all the city buildings. I would like to sort of put in a plug that Chevalier sort of be high on the list regarding this project, this evaluation. The timeline that Paul put out was nice to hear, because I was figuring it was going to take a couple of years to get this completed, and obviously a lot of expense. But the needs for Chevalier are unique, I think, in that it's one of the most active city buildings, and also perhaps the only one that generates income for the city. So it's really important that we keep it in the state of, good repair and competitive with other performing arts venues in the region. It probably gets more visitors than any city building other than the library and perhaps City Hall. And the use has changed from when it was a high school auditorium, and even when the improvements were made in the 90s. Just for example, like the elevator that's there, one of the two elevators that goes to the balcony, the one that goes to the balcony, it was designed for patron use, and now it's carrying full kegs of beer and pallets of beverages up to the balcony. The bar that's up there that didn't exist before is being used daily to take people down to the recreation department and the youth center. So it really needs to be evaluated in terms of its future capacity and use when it gets time to upgrade those. We have an advantage with the Chevalier Commission and committee that I mentioned, is that we have a capital improvement project list of about 25 projects with cost estimates and potential funding sources already in place. That was started by Victor Schrader when he was the economic development director. So we have a lot of resources available. And the other thing that I think could really help with terms of Chevalier, this is going to be an expensive project, but the Massachusetts Cultural Facilities Fund has a specific category that the city would be eligible to apply for. It's a systems replacement grant. It's part of their feasibility and technical assistant grants. And I'll just read the description. This is designed for organizations without full-time maintenance staff, which is what Chevalier is. And it's a 20-year capital needs assessment of the building and its mechanical systems. So that could save a lot of city expense in terms of looking at the Chevalier building alone. And I would hope we could explore that opportunity. The grant applications are due in January, and they would be awarded next May. So just put that on the list of things to look for in terms of potential funding. And then the last thought I had was, Paul mentioned we want to get these buildings up to the condition they were when they were built, but we also need to keep in mind best practices for today and the future. And I would hope that this evaluation looks at ways to improve energy efficiency. Chevalier just replaced all its interior lighting with LED, which was huge. But I hope they will look at the buildings in terms of further energy efficiency. For example, could solar panels be put in on the roof at Chevalier? It strikes me as it could be a potentially good candidate. So hopefully this evaluation of the building needs is not just a state of good repair, it also looks at making them as efficient as possible, and that all the modern best practices are taken into account. So thanks again for bringing this forward, and I look forward to it happening. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any comments on the comments?
No, I enjoy working with Ken, and I really am proud of the work that together we've done at the Chevalier. I don't know if you've checked out the new lights inside, but if you go see a show, it's very impressive.
Amazing. Any other public comment? Oh, we do have Matthew Lemming, Councillor Lemming, who is not on the committee, but maybe he is on the committee. Oh, great. Glad to see you here, Councillor Lemming. We're having you on mute.
Yes, I'm here for my own public comment. Now, sorry for being late. I was caught up in traffic. So And apologies if if this question was already addressed earlier, Mr. Reiche's comments, but even though you don't have a cost estimate for repairing all of the city-owned facilities, is there sort of a ballpark range that you have that we should be thinking about? I know I kind of asked you versions of this question before for other projects, but like what order of magnitude should the council and the rest of the city be thinking about this in, like 1 million, 10 million, 100 million?
It's probably within one of those ranges. I do better probably telling you to maintain buildings. There's two trains of thoughts on maintaining buildings, and that you can use your assessed value of the building, and they say anywhere between 1% and 3% of an assessed value of a building should be your yearly maintenance budget for that building, or other people say square footage. Assign a dollar amount per square foot, and that becomes your maintenance. For replacements, it's also a figure that you would look at over time, because I know at the Chevalier has a brand new heating system, fairly new heating system. So you look at that, you would forecast for say 10 years, 15 years out, and you would hit certain milestones. And each year would become an assigned value based on what was assessed as being due on that year. So it may scare you if you look at a figure, say $50 million, but then if you're looking at over 10 years, it becomes 5 million. So you want to look at it, two different ways. You would look at it as the total value, which I really don't want to put anything to that right now. But you would also then look at how many years to do that. So it lessens the blow and you can actually prepare much better for it. And you would also see there could be a year 7 of it, which may be a major year because you have 4 different building systems across the city coming up at the same exact time. So it makes budgeting much easier for you also.
Okay, so we should be, oh, sorry.
No, you go ahead, Council Lemming.
So we should be budgeting 3% of the assessed value of a given building towards maintenance or some other calculation. Has the city historically done that, or have we not?
I would say most cities and towns do not do that because the cost, if you look at your 3% of your assessed value, the cost of it would be astronomical. That's why most people use dollar per square foot. It's a range usually from like $1.50 to $2.70. So you figure out a mid-range in there. It's much less, but still, I don't think a lot of people plan that. It's not really a sexy budget item when you think of maintenance of buildings. So it's something that's always hard fought, but something that you have to fight for. Luckily, Medford has a city council and a mayor that understands the value of buildings and starting to turn that tide. So
I think a good way to phrase this in terms of which is another one of those questions that I don't expect to have the answer to right now, but maybe it's something to think about and get back later, is if we had put up that sort of a maintenance budget, would it have been able to sort of save some of the buildings in Medford that aren't doing so well right now?
I think you would not have so many priorities on a list in buildings. That's the one thing about spending money on maintenance, is that you can preserve systems and items in buildings for a longer period of time. So if the money was provided for the last 15, 20 years, right now, we wouldn't feel like that everything was a priority that was coming my way. So, and that's what hopefully by asking for this maintenance plan, that's what you're doing for the future and leaving for the future, that it doesn't become these priorities in every building all over Medford.
And can I clarify, it sounds like maybe it does help lower the
Yes.
overall cost.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, if you do maintenance on an HVAC system that has a 15-year life expectancy, you might be able to get that to 20 years. And you can ensure, so things like that also increase life expectancies, and it's easier than when you need to replace it because you've been taking care of it. You may not have to replace the whole thing. You may only have to replace certain components.
Great. Anything else, Councilor Lemming?
Nope. I think, I do think that to sort of like sell this to the public, it would help to say something like, oh, well, we, wouldn't have had to close down the Ebasudia if that building had been better maintained, or we wouldn't have to spend this much money on our new HVAC systems if we just put this much money into it in previous years. So just what I was kind of fishing for was individual stories where we could have done better as a stronger justification for this plan when illustrating it to the public in the future. But now I'm unsatisfied.
Great. And do you think that in the 2 weeks, you would be able to also just add a column that was like whichever estimate
Yeah.
for maintenance you think would be preferable, if you want to do the like 2% or some sort of per square footage maintenance estimate in that
Yeah, that's not a
spreadsheet would
problem.
be great.
Not a problem.
Perfect. Any other comments from councilors? I want to thank you so much for coming out. It
you
has
for having
been
me.
really great to have you here. We look forward very much to the spreadsheet and then the estimate for the estimate. Do I have a motion on the floor?
Motion to keep the paper in committee and adjourn.
Second.
Fantastic. There is a motion to keep in committee and adjourn from Councilor Bears, seconded by Councilor Lemming. Clerk, when you're ready, if you would call the roll.
President Bears,
Yes.
Councilor Lozaro,
Yes.
Councilor Lemming,
Yes.
Councilor Scarpelli, Chair Callahan.
Yes. 5 in favor, 0 opposed. The motion passes and we are adjourned. Thank you.